Do you know what night crawling is? It is said that in some remote areas, there is still a custom that men secretly come to the room at night. If a woman is willing to open the door, it means that there can be deeper communication, and the man does not need to take any responsibility. However, if a woman becomes pregnant, the child born will be jointly raised by the entire village. Women can also become the pride of the whole village. On the night of May's birthday, her father opened the door to the house. Mai couldn't bear the humiliation and took sleeping pills, but after Mai woke up again. But every night, he proactively stands at the door waiting for the night climb. Not long after, May's belly gradually grew bigger. However, the men in the village turned into mummies one by one. On May's birthday, Dad came back from the field very early. He personally cooked for dishes and a soup, and also went to town to buy cake. Mai is very happy. This is his first birthday, and he deliberately wore his favorite floral dress. When we were young, our family was very poor, and we picked up clothes that our neighbors didn't want, but my sister never complained. He also often told us that when I grew up, I would go out to work and earn money to spend on you, buy cigarettes for Dad, and buy the latest phone for brother. When Mai spoke, her eyes sparkled, but Dad frowned and said nothing. At dinner, I put the cake on the table and lit the candles. Mai closed her eyes and made a wish with a happy smile on her lips. Hope Dad is healthy. Hope brother can marry a good wife. Hope Mom can. Before he could finish, a thin hand reached out onto the cake. Mom picked up a piece of cream, licked it in her mouth, and said like a child, "It's so sweet and delicious." Dad angrily pushed Mom to the ground and scolded her fiercely, "Get out of here." Mom didn't stand firm and bumped into the corner of the table, covering her forehead and crying loudly. Mom is a fool. She wasn't that foolish when she first married Dad. Mom is not only beautiful, can read, but also speaks a language that we cannot understand. But since giving birth to me and my little sister, I have become silly, sitting in the yard all day basking in the sun, unable to speak completely. My younger sister held my mother in her arms and patted her back, saying, "Mom, be good. Mom, don't cry. I'll buy you candy every month when I earn money." I despise my mother from the bottom of my heart because she has never given me and my sister any maternal love. He can't do farm work. He can only cry. For a family like ours, he is undoubtedly a burden. But my sister is kind-hearted and always serves him delicious food and helps him wash his hair and take a bath. After dinner, my dad sat under the big tree in the yard smoking. I sat next to him, and he finished his last puff and turned to look at the clock in the hall. Speaking of a thing, you go and open the door. My heart skipped a beat, and I remembered the ancient custom in the village. Then he said, "Dad, you just had her birthday, and she's happy now. If you don't wait 2 days." I looked at May's house with some difficulty. Her window was open, and sweet singing came from inside. My dad gave me a glare. "Wait 2 days. If a man from the village asks you how to explain it. Since you will experience it sooner or later, don't procrastinate. Just tonight." Dad is right. Our village is remote, with fewer women and more men. In order to reproduce offspring, maintain the number of people. When the girl at home becomes an adult, she has to open the door and let the men in the village crawl at night. No matter what kind of man climbs in, you cannot refuse. Children born during night crawling are jointly raised by the whole village and others, which has been a custom in the village for thousands of years. If you don't comply, you will be isolated and excluded by the people in the village. Dad, why don't I go tell you now and let him be mentally prepared? He is stubborn, and I'm worried that he might not understand and do something stupid. Dad has been lying to my sister that when he turns 18, he will send him to work in the city and leave this village forever. So my sister has been looking forward to her birthday, thinking she can escape the fate of night climbing. After listening, Dad stood up and pointed at my nose, saying, "Are you brainless? Tell him he just ran away. This kind of thing happens once and countless times. As he experiences more, he will naturally get used to it." I was told by my father that I didn't dare to look up and walked over to open the door just as my hand was on the door latch. My mother appeared out of nowhere, held my hand, and kept shaking her head. "Cannot open, a thing cannot open. His hands are very strong, and I can't break them even if I try hard. Mom, go back to sleep quickly. If Dad sees you later, he will hit you again." He kept muttering that he couldn't open it. His eyes turned red, and a tear fell on my arm. At this moment, my father took a shovel and walked over angrily, patting my mother's back. My sister heard the noise and ran out, seeing the open door crack and the mother sitting on the ground. She instantly understood everything, and she held her mother in her arms, looking at me and my dad with a sad look. "It turns out you were lying to me." I felt uncomfortable being looked at by him, so I had to turn my face away. Dad put down the shovel and said in a flat tone, You, this is your good luck. You should enjoy it." My younger sister's eyes were filled with tears. "Is this good luck for you? Do you want it? What's the difference between doing this and giving me away?" My dad got angry as soon as he heard it and slapped him in the face. "You were born to me. You were born in this village. This is your destiny." My younger sister knelt down and hugged my father's leg, begging him, "Can you let me go? I'll go to the city to work and send you all the money I earn. Just tell the people in the village that I'm dead." My dad was moved for a moment. He put his hand on my sister's head and rubbed it, saying, You have always been very sensible. Can you be obedient this time?" After speaking, he took his sister to the house and tied her up, ignoring her cries. I didn't sleep that night, standing under the window watching the movement at the gate. At about 8 o'clock, a man walked in, and by the moonlight, I saw his face clearly. It's Lee Mazzy, a bachelor at the village entrance. Lee Mazzy is not tall, very ugly, and walks with bumps. It is said that there are some alternative means in that regard. Soon, there was a heart-wrenching cry coming from my sister's room. My mother also cried in the next room, and my heart was as uncomfortable as being pricked by a needle. I wanted to push open the door and drag Lee Mazzy out. When I walked to the door, my father's words of advice rang in my ear. "This girl didn't come this way. You'll get used to it slowly. You have to be ruthless in order to achieve great things." I gritted my teeth and turned back to the room. That night, Lee Mazzy struggled for a long time. So long that my sister's voice became hoarse from crying. "She has been cursing you nonstop, and I won't let you go even if I become a ghost." Lee Mazzy came out with a satisfied face. He hummed a tune while wearing clothes and staggered out of the door. I closed the door and walked to my sister's door, where the room was in a mess. My sister sat on the ground, her eyes swollen like walnuts, and he hugged his arms, trembling uncontrollably, looking at me with a resentful look. I poured a basin of hot water and put it on the ground, saying, "Let's wash it every month." He didn't say anything, just kept crying softly. I know that no matter what I say, I can't comfort him now. So I turned around and prepared to go back to the room. Just then, he stopped me. "Brother, if we weren't born in a village like this, would you have protected me just now?" I was silent for a moment, then nodded. You stop overthinking and go to sleep. I'll go back to the house." I went to bed only after seeing the light in my sister's room go out. But the next day, I was awakened by the urgent knocking on the door. Dad said anxiously outside that a thing. "Hurry up, your sister took sleeping pills." Me and my dad sent my sister to the clinic in the village for emergency treatment. Because there are no conditions for gastric lavage, the doctor hung my sister's intravenous drip for a few days. My sister was unconscious during that time. Both Dad and I thought he wouldn't survive. Dad even started thinking about where to bury him. There are rules in the village. Women who commit suicide cannot be buried in their own land. Dad went to the mountain overnight to find a piece of wasteland. Dig a hole. I'm going to pull my sister out of the clinic, carry it directly to the mountain, and bury it. I walked on the mountain road with my sister's cold body on my back. Tears can't stop flowing. Dad, do you think we killed Am? My dad glanced at my sister's body. He said that I usually spoil him too much. He doesn't know how to contribute to his family. Thought death would bring relief. He is being unfilial. The body was put into the pit. I put my sister's favorite hair clip next to him. My dad is holding a shovel and preparing to shovel soil into the pit. Yellow soil was scattered on my sister's body. I unexpectedly saw my sister's finger move. Then she coughed, as if choked by dirt. I jumped into the pit, holding her hand in surprise. Yue. You're not dead, you're still alive. Emma looked at the night sky with empty eyes. After a while, she sat up, patted the dirt off his body. Say it calmly, bro. I want to go home. My dad saw my sister wake up, quickly throw away the shovel. Together with me, we carried her out, walking on the way home. May's hair is messy from the wind. I feel a little strange. Her emotions have been very calm, not crying or making a fuss. Like a pool of love water. When I got home, my mom rushed up. Usually when my mom sees the MEI, she hugs her directly, acting coquettishly in her arms. This time it was like seeing a stranger. Step-by-step retreat. Keep retreating to the wall. My dad went to the kitchen to cook. Today, Lee Mazzy brought fish. It is said to nourish my sister's body. Men who crawl at night will give gifts to women's homes. Lee Mazzy's family is poor. The only thing to show off is fish. But he told the men in the village, my sister's cooking is really good. The men in the village were drooling. My dad guessed, in a few days, there will definitely be more men coming to my house. There will be more people giving gifts to my family then. Take Lee to town and sell him. Can exchange money. Save up and you can marry me a wife. Although our village has the custom of night climbing, but men's thinking is still relatively traditional. They all hope to marry a wife seriously. Moreover, unmarried women only need to get married. You can close the door and end the night crawl. My dad doesn't want me to crawl at night like other men. He felt ashamed of it. After my sister came back from the mountain, like a different person. He used to be reluctant to eat fish, reluctant to eat meat. Leave the best for us. This time he ate up the 2 plates of fish. My mom is standing in the corner. I kept looking at him with a scared look. My sister threw the chopsticks on the table. I stood up and said coldly, I'm going to sleep inside first. Nurture the spirit. I have to work at night. Hearing what he said, my dad and I looked at each other in confusion. Is this a narrow escape? Have you figured it out? Actually, my dad thinks he just recovered. Weak body. I want him to rest for 2 days and then open the door. But my sister doesn't need surgery. My dad smiled knowingly. Show a relieved expression. Yue. You've really grown up. Just figure it out. Wait for your brother to marry his sister-in-law back. I'll also arrange a marriage for you. That night, my front door was open until midnight. 3 men came in. There was no crying or struggling in my sister's room, replaced by the sound of branches. I feel very irritable listening to it. The village stipulates that men must be at least 25 years old to climb at night. I'm only 20 for this year. By them. Actually, I have long yearned for several young women in the village, but my dad wants to get me a wife as soon as possible and find clean women from other villages. Be my wife. I actually don't want to get married in my heart. After getting married, you can't climb at night anymore. Facing a woman every day is so boring. The next day, my yard was filled with pork and lamb. Someone even brought a head of milk to my house. My dad is so happy that he can't close his mouth. My sister is indifferent to these gifts. He picked up an old cheongsam from somewhere, wearing a rocking chair in the yard all day. The chair is shaking. Vaguely see his legs. I don't know if it's just my imagination. Since the night crawl began, my sister seems to have become much prettier. The corners of the eyes have also added a touch of charm. Several ants in the village met my sister. They all covered their noses in a sarcastic way and said, "Yue Yue. Why is there a smell on my body?" Zhao Dashan covered his mouth and laughed, saying it smells like a fox spirit. My son is almost sucked dry. I heard he didn't die even after taking sleeping pills. Crawled out of F's grave again. His stomach hasn't moved for a long time. Shouldn't it be impossible to give birth? They walked away with a burst of laughter. My sister is silent. A barely noticeable fierce light flashed in his eyes. Men come to my house at night in an endless dream. My dad plans to only let one in at a time. He's afraid my sister can't handle it. My sister is sitting under the window dressing up, still wearing that old cheongsam. I glanced at my dad through the mirror. The more men come in, the more gifts are sent. Doesn't it suit your taste? My dad was choked and couldn't speak. From dusk to dawn, in my sister's house, the sound of playing and joking has always been heard. The reflection on the window, you can see several men chasing women. I really can't imagine. What is the picture like in the room? The next day it was just dawn. The village chief came to knock on my door. He said solemnly that Li Mazi was dead. It is not uncommon for a person to die in the village, but Li Mazi died in the back mountain, less than 100 meters from the pit where my sister was buried last time, and the death was very terrifying. The whole person seems to have been sucked dry of flesh and blood. Only a layer of skin is left wrapped around the bone. The little mushroom was also forcibly torn off. The person who went up the mountain to chop wood in the village passed by and found him. My dad frowned and asked the village chief what he meant. "You suspect me." The village chief's small eyes smiled with 3 wrinkles. "Say how can. I just came to your house to take a look. Is you Atham?" Miss Sister twisted her waist and walked out of the inner room. The village chief's gaze lingered on her. The village chief is over 50 years old this year. Have a wife and children. His wife is a sickly person. Can't get out of bed for 8 months a year. The village chief pulled my father aside. "Whisper, close the door tonight. Wait for me to do it. I'll give you the tractor at home. Do you see it right?" My dad hesitated at first. Your eyes light up when you hear the tractor. Immediately nod. But at night, Amai suddenly stood at her father's door. "Don't let anyone in tonight. I am pregnant." Dad looked at the open door, a little hesitant in my heart. Then he called me aside. "Speaking of a fang, go and invite Aunt Che from the east end of the village. Aunt Che is the midwife in our village. He is the only one in the village, a shaman who knows some medical skills and yin-yang methods." I just arrived at Aunt Key's house. At that time, she was performing a ritual to help Li Mazi. Because today is Li Mazi's 7th day, those who are dying have the heaviest resentment. Aunt Che is worried that Li Mazi won't leave, will harm other people in the village. Let me wait for him on the side for a while. Wait for him to send Li Mazi to reincarnate first. However, when Aunt 7 and I arrived at my house, the village chief has already come to my house. I don't know how he convinced my dad to open the door. Aunt Che and I just walked in the door. I saw him impatiently bullying MEI. I don't know if it's just my imagination. I clearly saw it just now. A fierce light flashed in Amei's eyes, just as he saw us come in. That look disappeared. Then he sat on the bed with his arms crossed, said with tears in the corner of his eyes, "Pregnant women don't have to crawl at night anymore, do they?" The village chief was wearing clothes awkwardly. While wearing a belt, he said, "I'm not thinking. Just got pregnant. Shouldn't it have any impact? Aunt Che gave her a disdainful look after hearing this. Let Amai sit by the bed and comfort her for a few words. Ask her if she feels nauseous and sleepy. Amai nodded naively. Aunt Che took her pulse again. Then she came over and told us that she was pregnant. This girl is physically weak. Have to take care of this period of time. Can't climb at night anymore. Dad's face showed a hint of joy, asking if the baby is a boy or a girl, because there are regulations in the village. Girls born at night can stay in their own homes to raise. If a boy is born, the whole village will pay together. The land allocated to him for building a house. And before Nanma grew up, our family can get a new house, can get a few more acres of land. Aunt Che shook her head and said it was too early to tell. Bring him to me in half a month. I'll do the math for him. The village chief has been listening on the side. After seeing Aunt Che finish speaking, he came over and patted my dad's shoulder. Speaking of our village, there are several. No children were born in the year. This is a huge happy event. Tomorrow I will use a loudspeaker to notify everyone in the village. Make everyone happy. Since Amai got pregnant, Dad is very happy. Every day, I find ways to stew beef and lamb soup for Amai. But every time Amai smells the smell, she starts to retch. Can't eat any cooked meat. Slowly, people begin to become thin. Limbs like a bamboo pole. Only the belly is slightly bulging. My dad is not at home today. Mom stole a piece of raw meat with blood in it from the kitchen. After Amai saw it, I actually ate it from my mother. Swallowed it without chewing. Blood flowed down her mouth and onto her neck. I couldn't help but shiver when I saw it. I thought she was starving. Just take her to the kitchen to find something to eat. Amai has no interest in chicken, duck, fish, or meat. She actually walked straight towards the rice bowl where the raw meat was released. Wait for me to come to my senses. Amai held a whole piece of raw meat in her hand and swallowed it. This scene made my stomach churn. Just then, Dad is back. She stood at the kitchen door. The expression is as shocked as mine. He ran over when he realized it, took the raw meat from Amai's hand, dragging Amai into the yard. Amai greedily sucked the blood stains on her hand. I trembled and asked my dad if Yu was possessed. Dad frowned and said, "When I passed by the village entrance on my way back just now, I heard that another person died in the village. The person who died is called Zhang Hao, also a bachelor, crawled past my house several times. Moreover, Zhang Hao's body was also found in the back mountain. He was hung from a tree. The body was pecked by crows without a good piece of meat. The small mushrooms are also hanging from the branches, like a dried sausage. The scene is very eerie. Dad said he was going to take Annie 7 to get her blood. Just when Aunt Che smelled the fishy smell on Amai's body, he hurriedly took a handful of glutinous rice and sprinkled it on Amai. Holding a peachwood sword in his right hand, he hacked around Amai, chopping while chanting spells. Amai hugged her arms and looked at her impatiently. After Aunt Key's operation is over, wipe the sweat off my forehead. Tell my dad there's no big problem. Some pregnant women have a stronger taste, like to eat raw meat. This usually happens. The possibility of having a boy is relatively high." Dad heard. I happily gave Aunt Chet red tickets. Aunt 7 then. They brought us a few small green bottles. There seems to be a mist inside. He said to give this to Amai to smoke. Can help him recuperate. Dad thanked repeatedly. We came out of Aunt 7's house. Dad asked me to go to the store at the village entrance to buy him a pack of cigarettes. But on my way back from buying cigarettes, was stopped by Uncle San. Uncle San is a genuine yin-yang master. He just came back from visiting relatives in another city. After frowning and circling around me, he said a fang. I see that your forehead is black. I smell black all over. Is there anything unclean in your house? I was stunned by what he said. shaked his head. Speaking of my family, we haven't raised a dog or a cat recently. Just tied up a big black cow in the cowshed. Uncle Sam stroked his beard and said no. My eyes can't be wrong. Hurry up and take me to your house to have a look. I hesitated for a while. Never dared to agree. Because my dad doesn't like third uncle. He said Uncle Sam is a charlatan, relying on one mouth to cheat for food and drink all day long. If I were to bring him home, my dad is definitely going to fight with him. Uncle Sam noticed my hesitation. If you don't believe me, I will stick this talisman at the door of your living room. If the talisman paper turns black, it means there is something dirty in your house. As he spoke, he stuffed a yellow talisman into my hand. Walking on the way back, I'm holding that yellow talisman. I came to mind. Scene of eating raw meat. I would rather believe it in my heart. Trust it in its absence. I took advantage of them all sleeping at night. He pasted the yellow talisman in a hidden position on the door. Observed for a long time with a flashlight. The yellow talisman hasn't changed much. I couldn't help but curse a charlatan in my mouth. Then I went back to my room to sleep. The next morning, I got up to brush my teeth. The yellow talisman pasted on the door. It really turned black. I was so scared that the cup in my hand fell to the ground with a clang. I ran all the way to Uncle Son's house. He is playing witch and she in the yard. Seeing me running in a hurry, stopped what he was doing. Then I handed him the black and yellow talisman. Uncle Sam frowned. Has anyone died in your family recently? Oh right. Several people died in the village. Lee Mazzy and Jong Hao both died in the back mountain. My sister turned 18 this year. Those who died were all people who crawled into my house. Uncle Sam thought for a moment. Speaking of the eldest nephew, think about it carefully. Has your younger sister been behaving strangely recently? I thought about it. He slapped his forehead and said, Third uncle, I haven't had a chance to tell you yet. I just got pregnant 2 months ago. Uncle Sam calculated it on his fingers. It shouldn't be murmured in the mouth. I thought she was talking about my sister's weakness. Should not be pregnant. Uncle K gave me a string of copper coins. She said this thing can prevent ghosts from approaching, expel evil, and block evil spirits. She also said she wants to go see the bodies of Jong Hao and Limazi first. I hung the copper coin on my pants. Just got home. Just happened to meet my dad, who brought back to baked carp. Dad then cut the carp into sashimi. Let me bring it into the house for my sister to eat. But as soon as I walked into the house, an indescribable fishy smell hit me in the face. I saw my sister lying in bed. The belly looks bigger than a few days ago. Ming Ming is only 2 pregnant. The belly is as big as 5 months. The stretch marks on the belly are also black and ugly, like a big centipede lying down. It looks a bit creepy. Yu got up to eat fish. Saying, I put the sashimi on the low stool by the bed. After I heard it, struggling to sit up, impatiently stuffed the sashimi into his mouth. Looking at her now, she looks disheveled. The complexion before pregnancy has long disappeared. Open your eyes every day and eat. After eating, lie down and sleep. Also don't like to talk, like a pregnant sow. I immediately sat down by the bed. I want to chat with her, but I didn't expect that as soon as I approached MEI. The body moved cleverly to the wall. She held her head and asked me, What do you have on you? I looked at myself. Didn't bring a watch. No necklace. Empty in the pocket. Nothing is loaded. Suddenly, I thought of the other string of copper coins on my pants. My heart skipped a beat. Hastily explained that it's nothing. I didn't bring anything with me. I saw MI look at me suspiciously, continue to eat fish in big bites, but the eyes became more and more fierce. I am afraid. Just thinking of finding a reason to leave quickly. Eat slowly. I'm going to the kitchen to see if Dad needs my help. Just as I got up and walked out, Emma grabbed my arm, then whispered in my ear, "Brother, you have something unclean on you.